Russian missiles striking railway infrastructure near Dnipro, Ukraine, with the head of Ukraine's regional military in Dnipro saying that the strikes caused, quote, serious damage. This comes as the U.S. Defense Secretary said today that Putin's overall strategy with Ukraine is, quote, unknown. Let's discuss now. Senior military analyst, retired Colonel Cedric Layton joins us now. Colonel, thank you very much. With these strikes on the railway infrastructure in Dnipro region, the head of the Ukrainian regional military saying it is now unclear when normal rail service will resume. What are the Russians trying to do?
Well, Don, what they're trying to do is they're trying to cut off the rail supply. And we have to remember that in Ukraine, the rails are critically important. They're more important in Ukraine than they are in the United States. And when you look, this is where Dnipro is. It's right in basically the center part of the eastern part of the country. So this is a big road and railway junction, and plus the river runs through this area as well. So if you get Dnipro and you get these areas right in here, you get the rail lines that come from Kharkiv, the ones that come down from Kyiv, the ones that go east. Once you cut all this off, what you end up having is a situation where the Ukrainian forces could potentially be cut off from their supply lines and from reinforcements. So that's what the Russians are trying to do. They're trying to cut off the Ukrainians and basically surround them in this area right here in the eastern part of the country. So if they do that, then it's, you know, you hate to say it, but it's basically game over for the Ukrainian forces in this particular area if the Russians are allowed to proceed that way.
Well, speaking of the eastern Donbass region, the Ukrainian regional military is reporting heavy fighting, saying that there has been Russian shelling all along the region's front line in recent days. Is this turning into a stalemate, or is Russia threatening to push through?
Well, Russia wants to push through, Don, and you know, you look at the kind of fighting that's going on here, especially in towns like here at Severodonetsk, the area around Sloviansk, and then further south down toward this part of the Donbass region right here. So they want to go from Luhansk, which they've almost got captured completely here. This is the one part that is still remaining, and then they want to go into the Donetsk region right here of the Donbass. So if they get these areas right here, then it is basically something that what they can do here is control this, and when it comes to negotiations, which will eventually happen, even though it doesn't look like that now, they're going to be able to control areas that they hadn't controlled since 2014. Once they do that, then it's a lot harder for the Ukrainians to exercise control over this part of the Donbass.
Colonel, satellite imagery appears to show Russian ships being loaded up with Ukrainian grain in Crimea. Is this kind of theft why Russia has focused so much of their offensive on capturing these major ports in the Black Sea?
This is basically the goal that they seek. You know, when you look at these ships right here and you see all the grain silos right in here, let's do a quick close-up of the ship, and you can see it's actually in the process of being loaded right here with grain. This is what they want. This is the kind of material, the exports that Ukraine has. It's the fifth largest wheat exporter in the world. This is what Russia wants to control, helps with its foreign exchange, also helps when it can export this and influence other countries, and if it controls things like the world grain market, it can control the food supply. So this is exactly what the Russians want. And when it comes to the areas that they control, the southern part right here, they only have a very little bit of coastline left, and if they control this, they get access to the wheat growing regions right in through this area right here. If they do that, and they control the ports, and the exportability of these areas is under their control, then they can, in essence, tie the noose around Ukraine's neck, and that's an economic goal that they have at the moment.
The Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin saying today that Putin's overall goals in Ukraine are, quote, unknown. When you look at Russia's military moves overall, what do you see, Colonel?
So here's what I see, Don. I see them, you know, clearly they're operating in the east. They had to give up the work that they did around Kyiv. They were forced back from here. They were forced back from parts of Kharkiv. But what they are not forced back from is the northeast right here, the eastern parts here, and most of the south. What they're trying to do is they're trying to strangle all of these areas right here. They basically are keeping them under Russian control. This prevents the export of goods through ports like Odessa, which, by the way, although not occupied, is under blockade. When they do all of this, what they're doing is they're in essence taking the lifeline out of this particular area, and Ukraine is forced to export through areas like Poland or Romania. It's also the areas where, of course, they're getting goods from those areas, and they're also getting weapons supplies from those areas. So what the Russians want is they want to strangle this area, and in essence it's a death by 1,000 cuts scenario. They want to take these areas and then gradually move westward into these areas so that eventually they could potentially control the rest of the country. The goal is still to topple the Ukrainian government, to eliminate the Ukrainian culture. They have not done that, and they've got a long way to go before they can do that. But the way they're going about things, the way they're moving their troops, but how they're targeting civilian populations, all of that means that they want to eliminate Ukraine from the map.
Colonel, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You bet, Don. Anytime.